Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. Pete Najarian joining me shortly. I'm Jon Najarian, and we're going to discuss ASTS and some unusual option activity in this one prior to a big 16% move in the past 5 days. You want trades like that? Stay tuned for the Rebel's Edge.
And here we go. I'll tell you what, John, it's interesting how the markets have been trading and, some of the things that people have thrown at the market and everything else. And yet here we are, right? I mean, it doesn't look so bad. A pretty nice day yesterday, especially for the Dow up, 400, 4.25, something like that.
Yep. Today it's kind of just meandering, of course.
Yeah.
The Dow is lower by 60, S&P lower by 5. But keep in mind, folks, that's a 6,800 point index. So 5 is not even 1/10%. And the NASDAQ is down 3 points. And it's a 23,000 point index. So, I think we're doing okay, Pete. I think we're doing okay, and we're going to get more cuts. And we're going to get a highlight of what exactly the job market looks like tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So it should be pretty interesting. I think we all have our ideas on how the market and how the jobs looks and all the rest of it. And it's going to be interesting. And of course, the talk about Powell and where will he be in a few months from now?
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Well, we always hit macro top of the show, Pete. And some shows do nothing but macro for the first half hour and pontificate their navels. We're going to pontificate our navels for about 1 minute, starting now. Initial jobless claims, they fell to a 3-year low. So that was significantly below forecasts, and it indicated that perhaps labor market pressures are easing. Mm-hmm. What do you have, Pete?
Yeah, easing is right. John, I just keep looking over at the idea of the cuts and how that's just jumped. And at this point in time, we're somewhere in the ballpark of 90% for the cut next week. I would say that's pretty daggone accurate. It's something that you've talked about, I think, on television multiple times. I've talked about it multiple times, even before we'd gotten some of the information that we now have. It just seems like it's something that's going to happen, needs to happen, didn't happen earlier in the year. So they're kind of making up for it either way this coming week. So that's going to be interesting to see.
Pete, as far as futures, I got nothing. Because they're flat as a board. The only thing that's moving at all, folks, is coffee, which is higher by 1.4%, and it's back up to 377.75. But that's about it, Pete. The futures are pretty dang dull right now.
They are. The one thing that's not totally dull, or maybe you might think it's a little bit dull, is that volatility index that we talk about each and every day. John did a great job of last night on a big Zoom call that we were doing with a lot of people, and we were talking about what does it really mean? And John broke the whole thing down in an amazing way, so that was great, so people understand it. But how about this, John? We actually hit the lowest levels today on the volatility index. We hit the lowest level since October 27th. So to say that we are in an interesting spot, I would say is pretty accurate, because we are sitting here right now. We hit 1590. We're sitting somewhere between, call it 16 and 18, but a little bit below 16, obviously, today. It's down 14% in the last month, the volatility index. So gives you a little idea that people have gotten a heck of a lot more comfortable as we've gotten into the Thanksgiving and now looking ahead to Christmas. And of course, those cuts, people, I think, are pretty excited about where things are, and they're a lot less concerned. So that's why I think we're seeing that VIX drop the way it has.
Well, what about hitting some stocks now, Pete, starting with that ASTS, which was up 6% just a little bit ago. And like I said at the top, 16% in the last 5 days. This is known as AST Space Mobile. And why is this one in focus? Well, people like Sam Altman. If Sam Altman puts money in something, people generally are going to pay attention. And a bunch of the executives there just got a bunch of restricted stock units, or RSUs, in this one, which is kind of like handcuffs, golden handcuffs, Pete. But nonetheless, it's going to be a stock that I think people should be paying attention to. I mean, that chart that Jared put on the screen there, look at the move just in the past, call it 2 weeks. And if you look at it and see where's resistance above, significantly higher. I mean, at like $130 higher. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing a little bit of the shorts getting squeezed a little, John, here, because they've got about a 14 to an 18% short interest rate, however you want to take a look at that. They do have a cash burn that's something that's probably a little concerning, $800 million. But that being said, it's space-based data centers is one of the ideas chucked around out there. And by the way, center stage, they've got this UBS Global Media and Communications Conference coming up next week. So something to look forward to, and a catalyst, I would say yes. And with that short interest, it could get a little bit more of a squeeze, because we were up, I think, about 14% earlier, John. So,
well, we're still up there, Pete.
Okay.
I said 6 early on, but we're up almost 15%. We're through 70, Pete.
Yeah.
And
well,
folks, take a look at this unusual activity, because the UOA, as we call it, unusual option activity, occurred basically in the middle of November, and they were buying December calls that don't expire this week. They expire 2 weeks from now, the 19th, after our big thing with Grant Cardone, the 10X Wealth Conference, Pete. But this one, $56 is where the stock was back then. Where is it now? $70. Those calls are $5 in the money if you bought those. But folks, from watching us all the time, Pete and I generally buy at the money. So how much are our calls up as the stock moves? Even if you bought the 60s, they're $10 deep in the money now, Pete. So this is a big windfall, this particular one, AST Space Mobile.
Yep, gotta love it. Absolutely love it. And that UOA, unusual option activity, kind of pointing the way. That's outstanding. It's something we talk about all the time. And the people who don't understand it just don't understand it. But there are folks out there that have quality information, not dirty information, probably quality information, and they use that, and they use the options because you've got the leverage side of it, and that gives you the opportunity. And if you're wrong, you're not going to lose as much money with the trade. So that's the world that we live in with options.
Yeah, and that's why it's so great, folks. You define your risk when you enter the trade. You get a leveraged bet to the upside if it's a call, leveraged bet to the downside if it's a put. Go to marketrebellion.com/get started for more. All right, SAIC, Pete. This is known as Science Applications International. Was up 18% after the government IT and engineering contractor basically reported their Q3 results, and they were pretty spectacular, as you might imagine. If they were giving a warning on the future, they wouldn't be up. If they didn't meet, the bottom line numbers or the top line numbers, they wouldn't be up. But they've done all of that, and it is up almost 20% today.
Yeah, not so bad. And oh, by the way, everybody loves to talk about it, not specifically this name, John, but everybody talks about bubbles, or they talk about this and that and the other. This thing trades at a 9 PE. So, it's not exactly something that you're overly concerned about. And you get a pretty daggone nice move today for the right reasons. You mentioned it already, but we've been talking about earnings being the biggest catalyst that can help get us out of some holes during the time during the year. And I'll tell you what, the earnings at 258 versus 215, I would say that was a pretty daggone nice quarter for them. Revenue was in line. We would like to have seen a little bit bigger beat there, but the margins and so forth, that's another thing that's remains resilient with these guys. They're doing a great job, defense, intelligence, IT, that whole world. So it's an impressive quarter again. And again, the catalyst is, what did they say on earnings? Well, they crushed it on earnings itself. So I don't know. Everybody likes to poo-poo this whole thing, but the reality is the earnings have been something of a savior in times where we've had a little bit of pressure to the downside for the markets.
All right, Pete, what about Dollar General? DG is the symbol here, folks. And when you look at DG, they reported strong Q3 earnings, beat analyst expectation. That's important, of course. Guidance is always important, and a real surge in net income. So I think many of us may have looked at this one, Pete, as a shutdown play, because if people have to trade down during the shutdown, this was an obvious beneficiary, as would be usually Walmart, because they're both of them are pretty much value shopping experiences.
Yeah, and you know what? This is another one, John, where you saw the chart and you can see what this stock has done, which has been a nice move from the lower left to the upper right. Still trades at a 16 PE. That's pretty inexpensive, quite frankly. And I like what they had to say, John. Not only did they beat, like you talked about in the third quarter, but the revenues year over year, 10.6 billion. Same store sales were up as well, so that's pretty impressive. Customer traffic is a big deal. That was impressive. They raised the guidance. That was impressive. That's why you see a 10% move to the upside today. I'll tell you what, they also have a free cash flow of 1.5 billion bucks. So I think the Dollar General is really doing very much like you just said, Walmart. I mean, when you look at what Walmart has been able to do, it's gotten sticky. And as people traded down in the last couple of years, that's become sticky, and they're there a lot more frequently than they ever were in the past. We're seeing the same thing going on, I think, with Dollar General, and they're executing at a really high level. So with that guidance, they don't think it's over. They think they're still in the right spot for this thing into the future.
Right. It seems like they are. And let's hit now one, Pete, that I did not see coming at all. I didn't have a position on, and we didn't have any unusual activity, but the stock fell 11% today, and that's Snowflake. So, you know, when you're cloud and artificial intelligence, you'd think that perhaps that combination would kind of help lift the stock, but instead, Snowflake trading to the downside on pretty heavy turnover of about 12 million shares. Earnings per share surpassed expectations, and revenue did as well. But revenue, product revenue was one thing that I guess initially people liked to see it because it was up 29% year over year. But then the rest of the story, Pete, and basically in after hours last night, they started hitting it, and they haven't stopped today.
Yeah, margins declining is definitely something that people are not very happy with. And I think that was part of the problem that they're seeing here, John, because when you look at the earnings, yeah, the earnings were pretty good. You look at the revenue, again, pretty good. They beat expectations, but there's always a little bit of a but factor when you're looking at some of these and when you wonder why are they going to the downside? Well, you know, they're expecting to see some of the revenue maybe to decline as well. And when you're losing some of that, you're losing the margins, I should say. It makes it pretty interesting. Maybe the Martians as well, John, but here's one, and here's why I bet you they're hitting it. They didn't blow anybody out with what they said, right? Well, they got a PE of 163. So that's a bit high, I would say, you know. So when we talk about these things and we talk about PEs, just kind of keep in mind some of that. To continue to go to the upside, you have to destroy the earnings, and you have to give people everything they want with the guidance. And I don't think that they delivered enough of that. And that's why I think people are taking a look saying, okay, well, it's kind of an overpriced stock right now. I think it's time to get the palms out and take a little bit off. And that's exactly what it looks like is happening today to me.
Yeah, operating margins are going to shrink, like you said, Pete, by 11 to 7%, somewhere in that range. So we all know that if that's your operating margin and you're making less on the same amount of revenue, that's not a good thing. You know, it does happen, especially if people are so enthusiastic about a company that, like Pete said, it's got 163 PE. Yeah, you really do need to blow it out. It's the same thing that hurt Palantir. Are either of these stocks that are going away, Palantir or Snowflake? No, hell no. But again, are they priced for a perfection at this level and maybe pricing, you know, out a year or even 2 years into the future to justify some of the expenditures they're making? And my answer would be, yeah, they're pushing it out pretty far at this point, Pete.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, let's take a look at one of the greatest to ever put on pads. I love Walter Payton, and I would put him right up there with this guy. But, you know, when you look at Barry Sanders, and by the way, listen to these stats as the guy's quoting the stats about number 21. I mean, just amazing, Pete.
Yeah.
Here you go, folks.
The 1988 winner of the Heisman Award.
He's gone for a touchdown. Barry Sanders.
Look at the
Take a
speed.
look. 30, 40 years from now, that people are going to be asking, you ever see Barry Sanders play?
How about Barry Sanders to midfield?
He can embarrass so many people in one
Sanders had
play.
arguably the greatest collegiate season ever, setting 34 records. He
34
rushed
records.
for 2,628 yards and scored 39 touchdowns in 11 games.
Barry Sanders from the 1-yard line?
By the way, that was 11 games.
Barry
College
Sanders.
football plays more than 11 now.
The 1988 winner.
Yep, that's a special guy right there.
He was a special player, John, that could not be tackled. I can tell you, I was lucky enough or unlucky enough to be in that same division back in the day when I was with the Vikings and with Tampa. Tampa used to be a part of that division. So we would play against the Bears and Walter Payton. We'd play against Detroit and Barry Sanders. Great players, both of them. And nothing I could ever say bad about, the stud from Chicago. But I'll tell you what, the big dog up there in Detroit, the way he could stop and pivot and move and then accelerate to full speed within yards was absolutely like nobody I've ever seen before, John. I mean, you watch like tape and it's almost like you're watching a highlight film of the guy. I mean, he was so special of a player and so interesting of a guy. How about the fact that he virtually just kind of came up and said, I think I'm done. I've done what I wanted to do. And he retired, right? I mean, he kind of walked away when he still had plenty of time and, a little bit more tread on the tires, but he's a special guy. And you know what I loved most about him? You know, when he scored a touchdown, you know what he did? He didn't slam it to the ground. He didn't do some goofy freaking dance in the middle that they've rehearsed for the last week and a half with a bunch of other morons. The guy actually used to come over and hand it to the referee. That's when you see a classy guy. And you know why he does that? Because he's basically saying, you know what? This is just another play for me.
Yeah.
And I'll see you in another 5 or 10 minutes. So,
That's right. I'll see you again soon.
yeah, he was sure a special guy, John. I mean, really, as a person and a God-fearing guy and all the wonderful things that go with it. And he had some kids that were pretty good. One of his kids played out at Stanford, was a damn good running back. He was not Barry, and that's got to be a tough thing, right? When your father's that good that you can't surpass, there's just no way you're going to even match up with your dad. But he was a heck of a running back as well. But Barry was special. I still think he was the best running back of all time. Bo Jackson might have been, but we'll never know that because of the hip and all the rest of the things that happened to Bo. But I'll tell you what, Barry was pretty special, John.
Yep. And he owns car dealerships, Pete. And he used to give away, he's one of those guys that really took care of not just people around him, but people in cities and things where he lived.
Yeah.
And he's a member of the Hall of Fame. Back in 2004, they put him in. And he's been using that gift that he's been given for good for not just him, but for other people, which is more or less one of the marks of somebody special.
Class act all the way. All right, John, Thursday night football. We got to focus on this one, and here's why. You've got the Dallas Cowboys playing against the Detroit Lions. Now, Dallas has been going this direction, and Detroit has been going this direction. Detroit looked great. Early on, you look at Detroit, and the quarterback is outstanding. You've got a couple of running backs who are great. Your defense is outstanding as well. And unfortunately, John, it's not like they're getting beat. They just have been in games that it's very close, and towards the end, for whatever the reason, they haven't been able to answer the bell. And their defense over the last couple of weeks has had a little bit more trouble stopping the run. And anytime you do that, if you can't stop the run, that means they're not only going to run, they're going to throw the ball because you're going to have to stack up to try to stop the run. And I think that's what we're seeing coming out of Detroit right now. They're sitting number 3. And they're having to look up at Green Bay and your Chicago Bears because they're right now kind of on that, are they even going to make the playoffs? Now they probably will, but it's not guaranteed because of where they are. On the other side, got the Dallas Cowboys. And that's what makes this game so interesting because all of a sudden you look over at Dak Prescott. John, the last 3 games he threw for 268, 354, and 320 yards. I mean, I'll tell you what, Dak is back. Dak is on fire. They beat the Raiders, not a great team, but they beat the Eagles, a damn good team, and they beat the Chiefs, who are always tough, no matter what. I mean, they aren't the Chiefs of last year and previous years, but they're still the Chiefs. And will they make the playoffs? Maybe. We talked about the parity. Yeah, probably
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm thinking they won't.
They might not.
Yeah, and, so Travis gets to go get married to
Oh, God. Good luck.
Taylor Swift or something. But yeah, I mean, Pete, they're on the outside looking in, and they went from, the penthouse to the outhouse pretty quick. But like you say, they're always going to give you a tough game.
Mm-hmm.
Question is, how much longer? Mahomes will be around another if he wants to.
Yep.
And he's got a big contract, and without any significant injuries, that guy could play for another 10.
Yep.
Easy. But does he want to?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if a lot of it is rebuilding, because the O-line needs to be rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
I think it did, even though they've won Super Bowls since they let him go. I think it was a loss when they lost the Cheetah, even though they got that really fast kid last year out of college. They just don't have the same threats that they had in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, O-line, you're right. I mean, offensive line is such a critical area. And, I think a lot of teams just don't really embrace it enough. They pay too much money to other players, so they can't really do it with the offensive line because you've got a salary cap, and that becomes an issue. And that's why the GMs that are really good figure stuff out, and the GMs that are not, they look like the Minnesota Vikings. Anyway, Jordan Love, I'll say this, John, in the last 3 games, how about this? He's had 8 touchdowns that he's thrown, which pretty impressive. No sacks. I mean, I think, that's Dak actually that's done so well. He 8 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. How about that? Not so bad. But we'll see. Pro football is every week is a new week, so you just never know. But I think this game tonight might be pretty interesting just because of the directions of Detroit going down, Dallas going up. Will that break? Well, I don't really know, but I think it's going to be a great game either way because Detroit's not getting blown out. They just aren't getting blown out when they're playing.
Well, and they're given 3.5, Pete. It's in Detroit, I believe, and they're giving 3.5. So obviously the bookies are trying to fight off the money that wants to come in on Dallas. We'll see. By the way, Dallas 6-5-1 and Detroit 7-5.
Yeah.
So interesting matchup, and like Pete said, one team's on fire and the other team's kind of fizzling.
Yep, and these are NFC teams. All right, next up, NBA. I finally wanted to go over to the NBA, John, because there's something going on over there that's really amazing, and I don't know how many people are paying attention to it. But how about the fact that OKC, the Thunder, they're 21-1, okay? At least they were yesterday. They're 10-0 at home, and they're 11-1 on the road. Pretty daggone impressive. That SGA is just an absolute freak show player, and anybody who watched the playoffs last year knows it. He's probably one of the best players in the game right now. He's sitting there with averaging just under 33 points a game. But here's what I wanted to point out, John. This team has made a decision that load management is not who we are. We aren't the LA Lakers with a bunch of softies who are going to sit on the sidelines and not perform in front of the people who've paid a hell of a lot of money for their tickets. Well, if you go to an OKC game, home or away, don't worry about it. The entire team will play. And here's the backup to that. SGA has played in 22 games. He's started 22 games. Holmgren's played in 18 games. Mitchell's played in 22 games. Wallace has played in 21 games. Williams has played in 21 games. John, what I love about this team is they don't believe in the whole load management crap that these guys think is okay. When did we decide that was okay? When did the NBA, whose commissioner is a complete piece of crap, he ought to be fired because of the fact that he allows it. The fact that they even have negotiations about the whole thing about loading. I mean, if you're signing these contracts that these guys have, how do you justify the fact that you could sit out? It's just the most ridiculous thing in the world. These guys don't believe in it. It's one more reason to say, you know what? I like OKC. I like the Thunder. I know that you're agreeing with me, but what do you think about this, Jon? I mean, you and I have talked about load management time and time again with that whole league, and it's pathetic. But this is a great example of a bunch of guys, kind of like, our guy Ant here at the Timberwolves. He doesn't believe in it. There's a few guys out there who don't believe in it, and they play every single game, and they play hard, and they play a lot of minutes. What do you think?
Well, if you're taking the money, you should play.
Yeah.
Unless you're hurt, unless it's a legitimate, injury, or you're afraid you're going to re-injure something like a pulled hamstring and it's recovering, but it's not all the way back and you don't think you can run. Okay, I get it. But if it's something where you're taking $25 million or more a year, some of these guys $40 and $50 million a year, and you're going to sit on the bench and watch the young players play, and you're 40 some odd years old, LeBron James. Why?
And he's been doing it for years.
Yeah, and you're already a billionaire. It's like, why are you doing that? You're just ruining your legacy, and then you're going to go out there and some guy's going to get close to you and you're going to act like a soccer player and oh God, like he just got drilled or something. So pathetic. By the way, Pete, let me throw out this real quick. In the last 4 games, Jordan Love, like you said, passing yards 1,100, Caleb Williams 920, touchdowns 8 apiece, interceptions 1 for Jordan, 2 for Caleb. This is just the last 4 games. Obviously, they're pretty damn close, and I don't think anybody really thought after seeing him last year that Caleb Williams would be at this level against a great quarterback, because I think Jordan Love is that, a great quarterback. Green Bay paid him like he was, and that might have surprised some people, but they wanted to lock that guy up, and they have, and he's performed. So I give him a lot of credit, Pete, but I think this is going to be a heck of a game. And one stat to throw out to you guys that I shared with Pete earlier, guys, and that is in a century of battles between the Bears and the Lions, the Bears have never won twice in the same year in Lambeau. And it happened last January 5th that the Bears won, and that was, of course, 2025. And if we go up there and beat them this year, it'll be the first time in 100 years that the Bears have beat them twice. And I'm not counting my chickens yet, Pete. I'm just saying if that happens.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, interesting to watch and see who's playing at what level and who's not. And like we keep on pounding for people, the parity of the NFL, this is exactly what they want. They don't want to have just one team who every single year, which Kansas City Chiefs or Philadelphia or whatever, but it's great to see all these different teams doing well, and some of them not doing well. Some of the good teams not doing well, but I'll tell you what, it's why the NFL is the NFL, and it's really helpful. And I'll tell you what, I got to think the ratings this year are as good as any year. It's pretty awesome.
It is. It is indeed. Well, thanks for joining us, folks. Pete and I always appreciate you guys tuning in, sharing some episodes with your friends, or even the shorts that Andrew or Jared cut up and put out there on Twitter and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. So please do that. Please join us again Monday as we start getting ready for the 10X Wealth Con in Miami at the Fountain Blue. That's going to be fabulous. And it's Thursday and Friday next week. So we'll be trading all the way into that and telling you guys what we're trading. But what time do we do that, Pete? The show next week?
I think it's got to be 1 p.m. Eastern time, Jon. People got to get it on. It's going to be fun.
1 p.m. We'll see you then.